Top 5 Wednesday, everybody. Top 5 game shows. Not a massive game show watcher, really, but I'll try my best. We'll see what comes up. I'm just trying to think. There is one I'm sure that's come up fairly recently that I quite liked. Well, let's... I know what my number one's going to be, but it's a bit of a cheating one. We'll go from the bottom. So number 5, let's say... You see, I'm struggling to even think of game shows at the moment. That's always the case with top 5s. Go on then, number 5, Blockbusters, just because that's the one that's in my mind. Blockbusters, it's a nice game show. It's like a quiz, but it's also like a race. I quite like it, particularly the Gold Run variant. But with Blockbusters, the idea is you've got 2 teams. I think a team of 2 and a team of 1, so it's not really much of a team, but it's a team. And one side has to answer questions going down a board of hexagons, and the other side has to answer across, and one side has one more question to answer. Basically, they have to link the 2 sides together across the board. I've not explained it very well, but the idea is it's a game of strategy, and it's a race, and you've also got to do pretty well in general knowledge. So I do like the concept of Blockbusters. Can't say I've watched like Blockbusters on the telly. I think it was a bit before my time, but I like the concept. It's a good show. It's a good game, and it's a good game show. Number 4. Oh man. I'm flagging here. I really don't know. I'm drawing a blank. I mean, Blankety Blank is a game show, but I don't really know what it's about, and I don't know if I put it in my top 5. You know what? Screw it. We're gonna do Jungle Run. Does Jungle Run count? Totally counts. Yeah, it totally counts. Jungle Run was fantastic. CBBC, and in fact, I've just thought of another one. That rounds out my top 3. CBBC game show. As with every game show on CBBC... Oh my goodness, I've just thought of another one, actually. As with every game show on CBBC, it was very action-oriented. It was very activity-based, so it wasn't quiz and it wasn't general knowledge. It was more, it was effectively, here's a monkey statue, get to it. And they put you in this scenario, and sometimes there'd be puzzles, sometimes there'd be strategy, but most of the time it'd be, there's a monkey statue there, you got to climb to it, grab the statue, and all to win the golden monkey at the end. I don't know if there's more of a prize than that, but there was a golden monkey. And it was one of these stupid game shows that's just fun to watch, because you're watching it and you think, I could do that. I fancy a go at that. It just looked like some kids in a play gym, you know? And there were also the 2 orangutans. I think they were orangutans. I mean, it would track that they were monkeys, but they might... I don't know. There were people in costumes, but they were orangutans, and they used to chuck boulders and stuff at you. Oh, yeah. Jungle Run. Great show. Number 3. Does this count? I'm sure it does, because there's points and there's prizes, so it's totally a game show. Oh yeah, it's Taskmaster. I have been really enjoying Taskmaster since discovering it earlier this year. What a brilliant show. It's kind of like the many CBBC shows I used to watch, but there's adults doing it, and it works really well as a format. They just get given these bizarre tasks to do. What was the today one we watched? Put the heaviest thing in a Christmas tree bagger from the furthest distance away. That was one of them. There was drop a water balloon from the tallest height without it bursting. Things like that. And it's a very enjoyable series. It also helps that it's all comedians. And the situation that they're in, it's possibly some of the best work that some of these comedians have ever done. Yeah, I love Taskmaster, and it has made me laugh a lot. Some series have been better than others, some contestants have been better than others. The current one that we're watching, I think we're on series 10 at the moment. Great bunch of contestants, they are all brilliant. So yes, Taskmaster number 3. Number 2, simply, purely for nostalgia's sake. Wait, no. Scratch that. Purely for nostalgia's sake, it's got to be Raven. I loved Raven when I was younger. It was essentially it's similar to Jungle Run, except it's more of a medieval theme, and that was my jam when I was a kid. And it was sort of hosted by this adventure-y looking guy, a bit of an Aragorn type character, and it was all these medieval type challenges, so it was much more action oriented, I think. Again, there were some puzzles involved though. So there were things like you had to cross. It wasn't dangerous at all. It was just like a pit of the sort of bark that you get in a playground, and you had to go over in a very particular, kind of like the Name of God in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. It was that sort of thing. And there was the one that I remember the most was it was kind of like an assault course. So you had these spinning things that would knock you off the course, and you had to balance on this piece of wood while also dodging all these things that were coming at you. It looked very dangerous, but lots of fun. And if you got knocked off, then you died in the game. I can't remember what the prizes were though. It was something cool. I remember wanting to go on it really bad. It was very, very cool, was Raven. They all wore these sort of tunics and very, very adventure-y, medieval fantasy sort of outfits, which was cool. Yeah, I liked Raven. Raven was great. The way of the warrior or something like that. Yeah, Raven was very, very cool. But my number 1, as I mistakenly alluded to earlier, Bamzooki. Bamzooki was just such a brilliant concept. Essentially, 2 teams of kids make some 3D creatures in this piece of software that you could anybody could download on their computer and make a Zook. And the idea was they would pit them in all these mini games, and so each team would bring 4 Zooks in, which, like I said, are these animated creatures in 3D, and you could you could place different body parts. You could give them all sorts of legs or even wheels if you were smart enough. You could change how they... What's the word for... You could change how they walked, basically, and which leg did what. So you could either have them sort of drag themselves along, or you could have them walk on 2 if you were very clever, or you could have them sort of walk like a cat, or any number of things. You could have a centipede if you wanted to, or you could have a wheeled creature somehow. You could have something that, if it got flipped over, well, it had another set of legs on the other side, so it would be okay, for example. You can have big creatures and small creatures, you could have long creatures and little creatures, and you would bring 4, and then you would have to pick which one you thought would be the best at a particular game. So, for example, the one that I remember the most was Bull in a China Shop, which was perhaps the easiest game. And they had this white table, and they'd show the Zooks on there. And everybody had to pretend that they could see the Zooks on the table, because there was nothing there in reality. It was just 3D projection. But anyway, it was a load of lightweight sort of pillars placed on the table, and then the Zook would have to go through and knock over as many as they could. So you'd naturally bring a big Zook for that, something that could knock over as many as possible in a shortest amount of time. There was one where you had to essentially push the other Zook into a pit, so you'd have 2 against each other. There was one that was kind of like an obstacle course, so you'd have to pick your most nimble Zook. I think there was one that was essentially just a race. And so you'd pick the right one for the task at hand. Kind of like Taskmaster, but with 3D animated creatures. It was just such a fantastic concept, and I wish that it was... It occurs to me it's a bit like Robot Wars in a sense, except much lower stakes. Something I have to give a disclaimer here, because I made a Zook. I made a few Zooks, actually. I enjoyed using that program, and I had aspirations to go on one day, except you had to have a team, and that means you had to have friends, and, well, that was already a problem. Anyway, I made a few Zooks, and one Zook that I made, it actually got shown in the show. At the start of the program, they would have a random community Zook that they'd pulled off the internet. You could upload your Zooks to the internet, and they would yank one out and show it at the start of the program. And mine got shown. It was called Brown in capital letters, and it was essentially a load of linked spheres with two little eyes, all sort of this stripy purple texture, and each sphere would move in a completely random way, essentially. I think, if I recall, I had to do each one manually, and I just kind of dragged the animation things around at random. So what it ended up being was this giant flailing snake that just sort of went... It was incredible, and I was overjoyed to see my Zook at the start of the show. I'm pretty sure they're all on YouTube now, so if you tried hard enough, you could probably find Brown. I don't know why I called it Brown. The name was so bad that the announcer actually refused to say the name of it. There were two hosts. I'm going on about Bamzooki now. Whatever, we've already gone over time. I'll just quickly explain this. There were two hosts. There was, I think the guy was called Jake, the sort of young, cool presenter who ran the thing. And then there was this other guy that was just a voice, quite a deep, sort of godlike voice. And Jake said, "Oh, do you mind telling me what this one's called?" And the voice said, "I'm not telling you." It was quite entertaining. Oh, I was cock-a-hoop that day. Anyway, that's my top 5 game shows. And, of course, there are things like Robot Wars and Dick and Dom in the Bungalow. I don't know if that counts. It probably doesn't. Although it is, again, similar in format to Taskmaster and Bamzooki and all them. And various others that I've watched over the years that I've only just thought of now. But let me know what your favourites are. Probably ones that aren't all ones you watched as a kid. And I shall leave that there. So thank you very much for watching. I'll see you all tomorrow.